Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the JG Sports Network Podcast. This week we are here with Jase Osai or Osei. Um, how are you today? Thank you for joining.
I am doing good. How you guys doing?
Doing
Terrific.
good.
I got my wonderful fiance right here, the one you talk to all the time on Facebook.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
I'm fine.
We had a bunch of questions for you tonight. I know Kenny's been had one that he's been wanting to say for all day, so I'm gonna let him start first.
Um. So, welcome number one to the podcast tonight. Very pleasure to have you here. Um. First question is, what made you become a wrestler? Like, who was your inspiration to become a wrestler?
So I guess from my younger days, my inspiration to become a wrestler probably was Sting, Flying Brian Pillman back on old school WCW. I used to watch them all the time back home in London, and that's really when I became a wrestling fan. Before transitioning to watching, WWF back in the day, which obviously is now modern day WWE.
Yeah.
And that kind of like inspired me to get into wrestling as a whole. In terms of what my actual journey into wrestling was, it was my WWE tryout back in 2018. I went to Orlando, Florida for a 3-day tryout. And that was actually my first experience of actually physically being in the wrestling ring. And ever since then, I had a taste for it. I thought to myself, hey, you know what? If the WWE thought I was decent enough to give me a tryout, then why not give it a go? Why not give it a shot and see where I make it, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Now speaking of that, you're from the United Kingdom, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, are you currently living in the United Kingdom now, or are you living in the United States right now?
Right now, I'm living in the United States. I live in Texas. Um,
Okay.
I've been in the US for 11 years now.
Okay.
I actually came out here to the US on a football scholarship. I played 3 years at Baylor University, and then
Oh, really?
yes, sir, I played O line, and then I
Oh,
played
wow.
my final 2 years at Texas A&M University of Commerce. Again, played O line, pretty much all
Hmm.
positions on O line apart from center. And yeah, after that, I met my wife out here, and obviously, love keeps you in
Yeah.
crazy places. But I don't think I traded I don't think I traded for the world.
I don't blame you, man. It's definitely inspiring to hear your journey coming from the United Kingdom to the United States to pursue a wrestling career. Not to mention playing as a transition from a football player to a wrestler. What's it like doing that? How's it like? What's the difference between playing the football and wrestling?
To be fair, there's not really much of a difference. I feel like I'm still training the same in terms of like the volume of working out that I'm doing.
Hmm.
If anything, there's probably a lot of more transferable skills from the football field to the wrestling ring simply because football requires you to be somewhat explosive, somewhat agile, and so forth. And so does wrestling, especially with things like rolling and so forth, and then even being able to do explosive moves. So I think if you've actually played football, the transition to becoming a wrestler is pretty easy, to be honest with you. Um, in between that, I actually, I still do it. I train a lot of kickboxing and
Hmm.
a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I did or still compete in those competitions, and I still compete some mixed martial arts as well. So that actually, again, lends a lot of the skill and technique to the wrestling ring. So and also from being a football player, just being able to have the footwork, the movement, and also the agility, it makes things a lot more easier. So you're not kind of starting from ground zero when you do get into wrestling training or get into the wrestling ring to compete.
Hmm.
Mhm. I know one person that's had the biggest question since today is this one right here. You ask it.
Nice. Yes. Um, The day that you came, I'm tired. The day that you came down and you did that the 4-way with you the man that looked like Mario. I think that I'm trying to remember their names.
It was me.
It was like months ago. It was like down here in McAllister. It was like months ago.
Yeah, I remember. Was it me, Luke Richmond, Jameson Holly, and Damien Daystar in the Fatal 4-way?
Yeah, how was that fight? Was it like okay? Was it like not fine? Because I know some fights for people it's like okay for them, but then it's like
I feel like the match itself, it was good. It was a fun match. Um, it was a very competitive match, and also I think it was a challenging match because you had like four different styles and four different personalities. So when you got those different combinations, it makes it challenging because now you have to try and make those combinations work, and you have to do it in a short amount of time because we only met each other. Well, me and Damien, we actually trained together, so he actually came from my school. But you have to actually, you actually have to be able to make that mesh together, and sometimes that can be difficult. But I think that we were able to manage it well. I would love to run that match back and have that again. I think if we did do it again, there's a lot of things that could go differently, and I feel like there's a lot of things that we kind of left off the table that I think we could have done, especially for a match like that. Um, so yeah, it was a good match. But again, I think that there's if we ran it back again, I think it would be better.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I've noticed is your attire, everybody and every superstar and wrestler has a specific kind of attire that suits their persona. Is your attire inspired by any wrestler from any other company that you've watched?
No, actually, my wrestling attire is actually inspired by Sagat from Street Fighter. So,
Actually, really.
yeah. So
Oh wow.
again, for me being a kickboxer, Sagat being a kickboxer, I saw that and I was like thinking to myself, hey, there's no one else in wrestling doing it. It's completely me. It's completely authentic. It's completely real. Why not? And I think I'm hoping that a lot of people have have adjusted to it and actually like the look. So to
Is so what all places have you wrestled in around the world? Has there been a specific like country or state that you've wrestled that you loved the most?
hold on, switching cameras because this one seems to not be liking me very much.
Oh.
There we go. I think the state that I've been in the most, obviously Texas because that's where I live. But apart from that, Arkansas. I've definitely wrestled a lot in Arkansas. Right now, the only two countries I've wrestled in are the USA and the UK. I've wrestled in London. Probably about nearly 2 months ago, and that was my first time wrestling back home. It was a great experience because I've always wanted to wrestle at home, and I'm happy that Hustle Wrestling gave me the opportunity to do that. It was an absolutely amazing experience. I feel like when you go from state to state, from place to place, it's always different. Like the crowd in Arkansas is very different to the crowd in Texas, which is very different to the crowd in Oklahoma. Hopefully, I'm hoping to get a few more states. And maybe go to like a few different countries. I really would love to go to Latin America to wrestle. But my biggest dream is to go to Japan and wrestle a match out there. If I could get that done, I'd be absolutely ecstatic.
Now have you ever dreamed about going to WWE or AEW or any of the big companies and wrestling against some of the best there too?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get the call up again to go to WWE and have like even if another tryout, get an opportunity to wrestle with them. AEW again, it's an up and coming company. I think what AEW's been around for nearly 10 years now, is it?
No, they started in 2019.
Oh,
And
2019.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's only 4. So it's only 4 years now.
4 or 5 years now. Going into next year will be 5, I think. Probably. Not sure.
Hey, sweet, and that's a young company too. So, and they've got like a lot of good stars. Love to go and mix it up with a few of them, and then obviously we have Impact and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Again, if any of them gave me the call up, I wouldn't say no.
Yeah.
And I would love to call up, but I think at the same time, right now, what I'm where I am, and really have to work hard where I'm at, and I think I don't ever take away from that situation by saying like, like, hey, where I'm at, I need to be somewhat bigger. I rather say like, hey, like I get the opportunity to do what I love, at at, at this in this day and age when it could definitely not be afforded to me, and I'm just embracing that right now.
Going back from personal question for you. What when you moved away from home to pursue a wrestling career, what was it like doing that? Like, was it tough to say goodbye to your mom and dad and all your family back in the United Kingdom, or was it just easy?
I would say leaving family is never easy. Um, you always miss them. Like, for instance, got my nephews. They're growing up so quickly. I pretty much only get to see them like every year. And so there's a lot of things that you kind of miss out on, like birthdays, different things, like, celebrating like weddings and all that stuff with your family, just because you're so far away. So it's never easy. And me, I'm a very family oriented man. I love my family to pieces. I love spending time with them. Um, but at the same time, they understand this journey doesn't come around very often, and when you're making good steam and you're having a good trajectory, you have to kind of ride the wave while it's hot. So they definitely understand. It's hard for me, but at the same time, you kind of just realize that you're working hard for them too, and that's why I try to make the most of my time, because at the end of the day, like, any time that I waste is time that I waste for them too, because that's time that they could have definitely been using to spend with me, to have their, obviously my mom, her son, my brother, my sister, their brother, and then obviously my nephews, their uncle.
Yeah.
And so that's why I make sure that, hey, like, every minute I'm spending out here, I'm working hard. That's exactly what I'm doing, working hard.
What's your next question, babe?
I was gonna ask this because some people say they like it and it makes them feel stronger, and some people say different. How does it feel when you come out of your like when you're doing an entrance? How does it feel when you get booed and when you get cheered on?
I guess, to be honest, it's kind of weird, like whether you're getting booed or cheered, like just the fact that you're getting some energy in the room, it gives you an adrenaline rush. So you just kind of like feed up the atmosphere. Um, when you're getting cheered, it gives you like the rush of like, okay, great, like everybody's on my side. I want to be able to perform well for them. But then also when you're getting booed, it gives you the energy of like, okay, well, you know what? Shoot, I'll show them, and then we'll see, we'll give them something to boo. So I think it's for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, because probably there's some people who like get booed and they think it's absolutely horrendous. But I think for me, it's a nice little energy rush, because you know that the crowd is invested in you. The crowd is looking at you. The crowd is definitely into you in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's into you to be, for you to win, or into you for you to lose. So I feed off that energy.
No, I know that the Halloween show for NCW is coming next month. Are you a part of that this year?
Yes, I will be facing Malik mayfield, and I'll be putting my Gladiator Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight title on the line. Since NCWO and Gladiator Championship Wrestling are both part of King of Sports Alliance, I can defend the title in any show that I want to. And Malik Mayfield, he's decided that he wants to face the challenge. So, you know what? I decided to give it to him.
Is there anything that you want to say to Malik Mayfield if he may watch this?
Yeah, I mean, Malik, I know I've seen you wrestle. I've seen you around. I know that not many people know. However, that's not really my concern. I'm not concerned about how many people know you. I'm not concerned about how many people, even, kind of consider you a household name. The fact is, I'm giving you an opportunity because I am always looking for challenges. I don't I don't look at people and decide that somebody is more worthy of the challenge than not. Whatever challenge is in your face, that's something that I'm going to definitely face. So, in saying that, I want you to know that you have my undivided attention, and I'm fully focused on you. It's not about defending a title. It's not about you winning a title. It's about you stepping in to what's going to be a fight, and me basically doing everything I can to win. There's going to be absolute violence in that. So I hope that you're ready, and I hope that you're taking it seriously. Because if you're not, I'm going to be coming in there full gun blazing, full fist flying, kicks flying and everything. So I can't really I know what I'm coming to do. So you just make sure you're coming in to do the same. Keep that energy. Otherwise, it's probably not going to end very well.
In your character form, when you fight him, do you think you will defeat him, or do you think he'll defeat you? Like how your character would act if like he defeated you.
I mean, I feel like if you go into a fight believing that you're going to lose, then you have no business fighting. So I don't go somewhere thinking that somebody is gonna beat me, because at that point that's a suicide mission. I go in there knowing that I've trained hard, I've worked hard, I have the skills to be able to go in there to win. So I challenge myself in the hope that obviously I would win, but I don't want my wins to be marred by people saying, "Well, that's just somebody easy that you could have beat." That's not what I want. I want people to I want my wins to be credible. So always go against people that I know will bring a challenge. But at the same time, I'm going in there with the full belief that I've got the skills and I'm going to be able to go out there and win.
That's a good thing to say.
Now, is there anybody in the backstage area that you get along with, like people that you are friends with, and some that you are enemies with?
I think for the most part, I get along with everybody who I meet in the backstage room. Um, I mean, we all got the same mission, which is, we're coming in here to come and compete, and then go home hopefully safely. Um, especially at this point in my life, especially in this point in my career, I haven't got no time for enemies. Like I haven't got time to bring negative energy into my life. I like to keep positive energy around me, and I feel like I don't want to put that energy out there in the universe either, because especially like me being a family man, having my wife, my two dogs and so forth and whatnot. Um, I want to come home and just know that I'm kind of feeding some good energy into them, feeding some good energy into the house, and I don't want to go outside and start bringing any negative energy. So usually, if anybody's like a negative person towards me or so forth, our interactions are very short lived. We won't interact for very long, just because there's no need to. We'll see if you want to be in a certain, if you want to act a certain type of way and so forth. That's great, but I've got things that I don't want to bring into my life, so I won't.
All right. Kenny, what's your next question that you have?
Um, what? How many championships have you won in your career so far?
So I have been the sole tag team champion. I have been the SOAR television champion. I have been the CKW Southern Heavyweight champion. I am currently the OIWA or half of the OIWA National Tag Team Champions, and then also the current Gladiator Championship Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion.
Mm-hmm. Another question is, if you could have a dream match against anybody in any company, who would you choose to face off against?
I think I'll choose to face him against Shinsuke Nakamura, just because I think that would be a nice little challenge. He throws some pretty hard kicks, and he throws some pretty unique offense. I feel like I've got a pretty unique offense as well. I think our styles would definitely, be a nice little match in the ring, and especially because my style for being how big I am. Not many people expect it. I think that it would be a match that a lot of people could get into.
Mm-hmm. Um, Another question is, have you ever got injured in any wrestling matches yet?
Thankfully, no, but I'm going to touch wood and say, that it stays that way.
uh, okay. What's the toughest match you've ever been in your career so far? Like the toughest match you've ever been in?
I think the toughest matches that I've probably been in, I say the toughest because I faced him twice. It's probably my match against Dante Smiley, who actually is my coach. Well, I think it was tough because he's a hard hitter. He's he's a definitely great opponent,
Mm-hmm.
and it meant that I had to bring every ounce of energy that I had to this match to be able to try to win. And then also the fact that when you're going against someone who trained you or someone who knows your every move, it's hard to beat them. It's hard to find anything to do to surprise them because they know exactly who you are. But then at the same time, I didn't want to disappoint them. I didn't want to disappoint them, like, kind of say like, hey, all the things you taught me, I didn't know any of it. I wanted to make sure that he knew that, like, hey, like, you taught me well, and you taught me so well that now I'm going to actually go out there. I'm going to, prove that I can actually like beat you. And I think to some degree I did. I proved, even though I wasn't successful in both the attempts. I think I proved to him that I that when we step into the ring, he's definitely taught me well enough, and also yeah, I can hang with him. I can win.
Mm-hmm.
I know she has a big question here. It's a big one.
You don't have to keep telling him.
Okay, good.
I can wait if Kenny has a question. I'm not gonna rush people.
No, go ahead. You good? I'm thinking of a question.
I was gonna ask, if you had a chance to go on WWE, would you like to face Omos if you had the chance?
I mean, to be fair, if I had a chance to go in WWE, and I don't think this is the same for anything. Any chance I have to go anywhere, I'll face anybody. And that's really it. Like, I think
Wow.
I will never back down from the challenge. I'm always ready to face who's in front of my face. I think like every challenge is an important challenge. Whether it's Omos or whether it's Spike Dudley, it doesn't really matter. Like big or small, I'm ready to face anybody.
Mm-hmm. I got one final question that I want to ask, and this is actually something I've been thinking of for a while. That when you said you had your tryout in WWE and in Orlando, what was it like doing it? Like, what did they have you do? For like, say, somebody wants to become a professional wrestler in WWE, what does it take to do it? What does it take for them to call you and say, "Hey, we want you to do this tryout for a possible chance"? What's it like doing it?
I mean, like, it's one of those things where number one, you have to have the look, and I think that's something that it's probably like a little bit of a controversial thing to say because what is the look? And I think when you watch WWE, like when you see the wrestlers on there and you see like how they look, I think people should pay attention to that because like you have to understand that these guys are in the company, these guys are on the show for a reason. So look at who's on there, and you have to ask yourself this question: do I look like any of those? Do am I, do I look like any of these guys? Because what WWE is saying is the guys that you're seeing in front of you, the guys that you see every week, whether you're in an arena or if you're even at home watching on TV, they're saying that this guy deserves to be on this show or this gal deserves to be on this show. And basically, you have to be in that kind of category to be able to be the same. So that's number one. Two, cardio has to be on point. If cardio is not on point, then I don't even think about going to like the tryout because I mean there was a lot of drills that can test your cardio, like back drills and a lot of rolling and so forth, running the ropes and so forth. So if you're not in good condition to run, especially, then I would say that that's something that you should probably be focusing on because it's important. The wrestling aspects, I mean, they're going to teach you what they want for their wrestling. And, a lot of people have this idea that you have to be a good wrestler before going to WWE. I would say that they would actually, you don't, because I got my tryout before stepping into wrestling. So that should tell you something in terms of hey, you don't have to necessarily be a world-class wrestler right now. They have the world-class wrestlers there as coaches. So they will teach you how to become a world-class wrestler. Also, you have to handle the look and the conditioning. And those are things that are definitely controllable for most of us. Like we can definitely work on kind of getting the look. And we can definitely work on conditioning every day. And so I think those are the two honest questions you have to ask yourself before even deciding you want to be a WWE wrestler. Like when you're looking at the TV, could I be any of those guys?
All right, well, that's it for me from answering questions. I appreciate the honest answers, man. I really do.
And my one final question is, I want to go back and talk about the gatekeeper for a second, knowing that he is undefeated in NCW as the world champion. Do you think that one day you could take that title off of him?
I mean, I've already beaten the gatekeeper at GCW. He came and challenged me in an open challenge for my title, and he pushed me to the limit. But I've proven that I could beat him, so I know that I could beat him for that title. Again, if he wants to show me that respect, then 100%, man, put that title on the line, run it, and it will always be challenge accepted by me. I'll definitely step up to the plate. Being undefeated doesn't mean anything. All it means is just that now, I just have to hit you harder. That means you're definitely a formidable opponent. So, it doesn't give you any special powers to have no losses. It just means that you're really good. So then that means on that day, I just have to beat that.
All right. Is there any final question you have, babe?
What's your best achievement being in wrestling? What made you excited of being in there?
Say that one more time.
I said, what's your best achievement of being in wrestling?
My best achievement of being a wrestler? That's a hard one. I mean, because the thing is, I think there's so many. I think the best achievement of being a wrestler, I think, is just to know, like, for instance, a kid came up to me one time, and said, like, man, you're my favorite wrestler. And I've only met the kid that first time. And it's those moments right there that are my favorite achievement because it means that once I stepped into the ring, I was able to make them feel something. And that for me is more important than anything else because, a lot of people can wrestle, but not a lot of people can wrestle and make the fans feel something, And I think for me, that was a crowning achievement because it said to me, hey, you know what? I'm doing a good job. And so I think that was probably my favorite achievement.
Well, I guess that's wraps this interview up in this show for today. I just want to say thank you again for joining the show. It's been an honor to have you here and hope to see you again here in the podcast as well.
Hey,
Facts on that, man.
But thank you again for joining the stream. And well, not stream, the podcast.
hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, man. It was definitely an honor and privilege to have you here.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute honor.
Thank you, man. Definitely appreciate it.
This has been the
Thank-
JG Sports Network, and we'll see you in the next podcast.